By now, you've either figured out how to play D&D online, or you're just not playing as much Dungeons & Dragons as you could be. So I'm going to show you the easiest ways I know to play D&D online for free, with D&D Beyond, Roll20, and my new favorite platform that you might not expect. Here we go. Hi, Bob here, and welcome to Bob World Builder, where we learn how to have more fun playing D&D together. And if getting together in person is a challenge that's been keeping you from playing D&D, I have 3 free resources you can use to keep your campaign going. But first, I want to share a few pros and cons of the online D&D experience, like being able to play with anyone. Literally, anyone in the world with an internet connection and a viable time zone for your schedule. With these tools, I've been able to play D&D with friends and patrons from all around the US and beyond. And I'm really grateful for that. But if you're not playing with friends, family, or people you already know, it's incredibly important to start with a session 0 and set expectations for your playstyle and player behavior. Skipping this step could result in one of those dreaded RPG horror stories, and opening up about how you like to play is just a good icebreaker before you actually start role-playing with silly voices in front of strangers. And sure, one day your friendly local game store might have an internet cafe section where you can play online and not worry about family members poking fun at your character voices. But playing from home has always been a pro in my experience. No commute time, no shoving your precious D&D books into a backpack, no forgotten dice or minis or pencils, and plenty of space at your private table to keep your snacks. But playing from home can dampen the social aspect of D&D. I'm lucky enough to have my fiancée, Grace, at home when we're playing or DMing in our respective campaigns to get some of that face-to-face connection with real-time reactions to the game. Because losing that immediate feedback and social interaction might be the biggest sacrifice of online D&D. So overall, I recommend using online games to supplement your D&D experience, to play when you would have had to cancel, or to join a second or even third campaign. Now, if you're familiar with my DM guides for Icefire Peak and Rime of the Frostmaiden, you already know I love D&D Beyond. I really believe it's the best online resource for official D&D content. Of course, it includes the basic rules for free, so everyone has access to most of the material from the Player's Handbook and some from the Monster Manual and Dungeon Master's Guide. Purchasing books on D&D Beyond is usually about half the price of the physical books, and rather than having to scroll through a PDF, you have very clean, well-organized web pages so you can easily access your library with any device anywhere you have an internet connection. But with a free account, you can also create characters and use their really well-organized character sheets with virtual dice. It does all the math for you, makes leveling super simple, and you can make custom spells, monsters, magic items, feats, backgrounds, races, and subclasses to share with your players or anyone in the world. It's what my latest home campaign uses for characters, and so far, I love it. But the main drawback of D&D Beyond, as I understand it, is that you must use it alongside another platform to actually chat with your group and or to use a battle grid, often called a virtual tabletop, and this is where Roll20 comes in. Roll20 also includes all of the free basic rules with the option to purchase books digitally, and a free virtual tabletop with voice and video chat. The VTT interface is not super intuitive, but it can do basically everything you want. I've used the free version for several years as a DM and player, and I love how customizable the character sheets are on Roll20. D&D Beyond seems so geared toward official content that it's a little harder to make homebrew character features. But like I said, I'm still relatively new to using D&D Beyond for an actual campaign. And as easy as Roll20 makes it to customize your characters, see everyone's roles, send secret messages to your players, and upload your own music tracks, handouts, tokens, and maps, check out my video here on my favorite free online mapper, Roll20 still can't do it all. In my experience, it just does not have a stable chat function. In my first Roll20 campaign, we only used the voice chat, because using both voice and video always created issues at the beginning of a session and or interruptions during a session. And for me, not being able to see the faces of my fellow players or my DM made it much more difficult to stay engaged in the game. So my new favorite platform for playing D&D online is Google Meet. I know, you can't make D&D characters with it, or buy books through it, or roll dice on it, but as someone who loves that face-to-face feeling during D&D, I really value how intuitive Google Meet is for selecting devices and how reliable the voice and video chat are. In my Patreon campaign, we use Google Meet for the chat, with Roll20 for characters, dice, tabletop, and music. But in my new home campaign, we use D&D Beyond for characters, real dice, and Google Meet for everything else. So we can't see each other's dice rolls, but that hasn't been a problem for us. And we mostly rely on theater of mind for gameplay, but as I just suggested, we've figured out a few workarounds to use a battle grid and music through Google Meet. Number 1. The Battle Cam. We mostly use this in Grace's Out of the Abyss campaign, which tends to have more dynamic combat. Basically, the DM or a player can log into the meeting using their phone and position it over the grid so everyone can see the map and minis. Whoever is controlling the battle cam also moves everyone's minis on their turn, and everyone can pin the battle cam window to their screen during combat. And option 2 is screen sharing. The DM can share a window with Google Drawings, Google Slides, or any online drawing tool, then paste in a custom map, or one from D&D Beyond, and create simple tokens or drop in actual tokens for the characters and monsters and move them around the map. With Google Drawings and Slides, you can even grant editing permission to your players so everyone can move the tokens around. Plus, you can use Google Meet to share a single tab with music playing, but I don't think you can share music and a map at the same time, so for now, no battle music. Now check out this free map maker video, and thank you to all the new Bob World Builder patrons, Naji, Anya, the Negotiators, Paul and Paul, David, Brent, Matt, NSF, Alexandra, Alec, William, George, Devin, Jen, and Ollie and Herman, who also joined the YouTube member club. Thank you all for your support, and keep building.